to find a comfortable position in your seat and put both feet on the ground. I like to put my feet flatly on the ground so I can really feel the sensation of the ground as it touches the flat of my feet. Put your hands loosely on your thighs, or if you like to clasp them together ever so lightly and gently. You want to just allow your hands to just find a resting place where it can feel comfortable. And you might want to go ahead and turn off your video, or if you rather find a space in the distance that you can just rest your gaze upon. You don't have to focus your gaze, just resting your gaze upon something in the distance. And I want you to be mindful of your breath. Notice your breath. Breathing in through your nose. Feeling that sensation of the air flowing through your nose into your lungs. The temperature, the cooling into your nose, into your body as you're breathing in. Pay attention to how your body responds as that nourishing air revitalizes your body. Notice that moment as you're breathing in. Breathing out, see if you can breathe out through your mouth. Feel the sensation of the air moving against your tongue, inside your mouth. The temperature, the heat, carrying the worries of your day through your breath out into the world. Breathing in, feeling that sense of energy. Breathing out, letting go. Letting go of your worries, your preoccupations, and being in the moment. Breathing in. Let your body soak in that air. Breathing out. Notice your body relaxing. Let it relax with every exhalation. Breathing out. Sink deeper into your chair. Breathing in. Feel the energy. Notice the quiet in between your breath. Ever so short, but so quiet and peaceful. And then breathing out, your body grounds itself to the floor, releasing the tension into the floor, away from your body. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, silence, and then breathing out. Take a few more breaths. And then go ahead and focus back to our meeting room.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was refreshing for you. And so we're going to go ahead and get our session started. for our COVID as a community, and we really want to stress the community. We're all in this together with our current situation. And so we just have a few questions that we're going to pose for Dr. Tan, and we're also going to have a question for our participants here shortly. So Dr. Tan, our session is compassion, giving, and hope. And so can you share your thoughts on when we share how giving impacts our community and our individual wellness?
Yeah, so do you remember as a kid, do you remember feeling really good when someone gave you something? You remember that? Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding of head. And then do you remember as you got a little bit older, or for some of us, maybe a lot older, you started to find that when you gave a gift to someone, that smile on their face, the delight in their eyes, or even just knowing that your gift is going to help them, that made just feel good. Do you remember that? Can you relate to that? Think about the times when you felt happy. How often were those times when you felt happy? How often were they related to receiving help? How often were they related to making a positive difference in someone's life? That sense of satisfaction, that sense of feeling worthy, the sense of purpose, the sense that you belong in this community because you have something to share. That's the power of giving. The power of giving is that it connects us to something greater than ourselves. And in these moments where, we may feel physically isolated, we might feel a bit socially isolated, that aspect of making a difference is one of the things that keeps us together as a community, that says, I belong here. Why does giving feel so good? Well, making a positive impact on another person's life gives us a sense of worthiness, a sense that we matter. In fact, when I work with my patients who have profound depression and worry about, suicidal thoughts, one of the core things that they wonder about, my patients who struggle with this, is if I were to be gone tomorrow, would anybody know? Would anybody care? Would someone be less bothered if I was gone? And so part of our work when I'm in therapy with my patients is to help them to discover what it is that they can contribute to the world, what it is that gives them meaning in society. And it's a search that we all strive for. And it takes on different shades whenever we are, wherever we are. But it's a pursuit. Why does giving feel so good? Because making a positive impact on another person's life gives us meaning. It says that we matter in the world and we matter to others. It's the positive connection that we have to others that supports our sense of belonging, which is really critical to wellness, that sense of belonging. We all biologically, evolutionarily, are people of community. We're social creatures. So having that feeling of belongingness has been shown to be very powerful in mediating emotional well-being, physical well-being, and social and cultural well-being. And it gives us purpose too when we think about ways that others. Now there's a physiologic explanation as well. So when we give, it's been shown that the mesolimbic part of our brain, the part of our brain that mediates emotion, joy, and pleasure, that part lights up when we give. So, in any time in age, but particularly in this time in age, we want to make sure that we feed that part of our brain, the part that mediates joy, the part that mediates pleasure, those positive feelings. We want to feed that part of our brain so that we feel nourished from the standpoint of our capacity for joy. This also then leads to decreased rates of depression. But again, as I said, it's not just the mental wellness, it's also that altruism or giving is associated with better physical health. People have better outcomes when it comes to heart disease, stroke, and hypertension. So that's the connection between giving and wellness. Now, it's important to know, though, that it's sort of it's a complicated phenomenon, because if we give solely so that we can benefit, it's actually not giving. Okay? So part of it is that true and authentic desire to help others, to wish good for others. That's actually the key. It's not necessarily what you give, whether that's a dime because that's what you can afford, whether that's $1,000 because that's what you can afford, whether it's your attention because that's what you have. Whatever it is, it's that intention, it's that desire to better the life of someone else that is healing for all of us, the people that are recipients of that gift, as well as the people who give that gift.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Tan. I love that you took us back to a mental, time frame where we have given, and just being able to feel those positive emotions in our body really strengthens our immune systems. And when we have the negative, it doesn't. It goes against our immune systems. So we want to elevate our immune systems. So with that being said, and on giving, we want to pose a question to the group, and the chat box is open. What are some ways that we can give during these times? Last week, we had also asked this question, and people were getting zoomed into book clubs and wine hours and all kinds of things. So what are some things that perhaps our group currently that are attending, what are some of the ways that you give during this time? And we'll just manage, you could just type it into the chat box. So we have, donating blood, really important right now. The health system has run a few donation drives, and so if we could participate in those throughout our community, that would be very helpful during this time. Volunteering virtually is what Carolyn is saying. Calling our friends. So how many friends, have we been out of touch? Can we go through our contacts and look at who haven't I spoken to in the last few months, or who I need to reconnect with? Just helping anyone in need is what Shani is stating. So having friends on Facebook. There's a lot of events that are still going on, new births, newborns are being born, people are getting married, and just being of support. Giving the time and checking in, especially on our older neighbors, is what Jane is offering. And so there's a variety of ways for us to give. So Dr. Tan, how about for yourself? What are some ways that we can give at this time?
Well, I think that's one of the most important ways that you can give is to support sheltering in place, right? Because that is actually a gift to those who are vulnerable to the hardest, the most severe parts of the COVID-19 infection, but also by helping people to shelter in place and for ourselves to shelter in place. It, again, flattens that curve so that it gives time for our hospitals, our healthcare providers, our health systems to be able to ready the system for those who need us most, and to be able to do it in a way that doesn't overwhelm our resources at any given time. So I would say if you feel like this is, you're wondering about the meaning of being physically distanced, I would tell you the meaning is so significant for those of us in healthcare. And the meaning is so significant for those who struggle with high blood pressure, with asthma, chronic illnesses that make people vulnerable to the worst of the COVID-19 infection. So I want you to be mindful about that. Maybe even taking a moment as you're thinking, when you think about isolating, when you think about physically distancing, spend a moment to think about the people that you are helping to prevent infection, to help our healthcare providers be ready, to help make sure that our health systems have the capacity to take care of those in need. That's an incredible gift that you can give. You know, if you're able to, consider donating as well. You know, I saw a lot of donating face masks, donating your time in terms of delivering groceries for those who can't go out or it's dangerous for them to go out. You know, our health system has also put together a COVID donation website, and we could send that out as well. Things like medical supply donations, things like monetary donations, even donations that show gratitude towards those in the front line can be really helpful. Just yesterday, a group of volunteers gave some food to our healthcare providers. I remember being on the wards when hospitals got busy, and the challenges that I had was, do I stay with my patient? Do I go use the restroom? Or do I have my first bite in 24 hours? Those were the decisions that I had to make. And to have people come and say, hey, this food, this is for you, was just incredible. It's just incredible, the gift, because again, it's about the nourishment, but it's also that you're thinking about the healthcare providers when they're thinking about others. And that is something that helps the healthcare practitioners feel like there's a community that's taking care of them as well. For those of you who are wondering, how do I get involved in the community? Well, there's this great website, and I'm gonna try to show that to you. Actually, I don't have it on. Actually, maybe I'll. Okay. So this is a website that is called Hands on Sacramento, and what you can do is they have a whole list of information of how you can get involved. So if you want to go today, well, at 1 o'clock, the food bank is needing some help. If you want to do some work over the weekend, there's a medical donations, a county medical donations warehouse that could use our help as well. So there are opportunities out there as well if you want to find a way that you can make a tangible difference. It's helpful for the community, it's helpful for the healthcare providers, it's helpful for the patients, and it's helpful for us as a group as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Tan. That's a very helpful website. I know that during this time, there's just so much change coming at us at so many directions, at home, at work, with our families, our communities, and whatnot. And in this time, as we try to give of ourselves, needing to also look at giving to ourselves. So can you speak a little bit about compassion fatigue and how to take care of ourselves around compassion fatigue?
Yes. You know, there is a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on in our community, within our households, at our work, within ourselves, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming. We can become numb or burned out of giving because we feel like there's just not enough of ourselves, our feelings, our empathy to go around. How many of you have had that experience recently? Raise your hand. Yeah, I'm seeing some raising of hands. Yeah. So let me talk about compassion fatigue. So compassion fatigue is a term that was used first to describe people who work with others who have this prolonged exposure to other people's trauma, that they become vulnerable to what's called secondary or vicarious trauma. When you're living the trauma that someone that you're helping is going through, you're living it within yourself. And as a result, you start to experience some of those similar symptoms, some of that distress, some of that depression, some of that anxiety. And those acute symptoms can cause mental and mental health challenges for people. And it can also make people a bit wary of giving to others because of how it might make them feel. Now, there's another definition of compassion fatigue that refers to the experience of any empathic individual, which we all have the capacity for empathy. But when we're acutely conscious of society's need, but we feel helpless to solve them. And this can happen when you're engaged in volunteering or when you're engaged in charitable work, and you feel like, you know what, there is this sea of need. There's only so much time, energy, and money that I can contribute to help others, that I just feel overwhelmed, or I just feel paralyzed with the need for support, and the challenge just seems to be never ending. Have I described some of the things that people are feeling? Yeah. I see some raising of hands there. Yeah. Well, I want to make a distinction. Actually, compassion fatigue is a bit of a misnomer, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But actually, compassion is not compatible with fatigue, is what the science tells us. What we're actually experiencing is not really compassion fatigue. It's actually empathy distress or empathy fatigue. It's when we feel this overwhelming sense of connection to someone else's pain, that it becomes part of our own pain. And in the mental health profession, we deal with this a lot. We struggle and we learn the tools to have the empathy, but not the empathy, not to the degree that the empathy causes us to actually lose sight of our opportunity to help, and it becomes more of our problem. So I'm going to show you a slide that illustrates what I'm talking about. So this is a slide on the relationship between empathy, compassion, and empathic distress or compassion fatigue. Okay. Now, it's really important that we have empathy. It is really important. Empathy is what motivates us to have compassion. Empathy being that sense of understanding cognitively what a person's going through, and affectively or emotionally relating, having that sense of, I can relate, I can feel what it's like that you're going through this hard time. Now, the distinction, though, is that when we become fatigued, it's when we start to think about that crisis or that situation and how it directly just relates to us. So some feelings, some ways that this can manifest is if you've ever talked to someone who is a bit burned out about your problems, they may say something like, well, if I were you, I would try this, or have you tried this or that or this? And if you explain to them that that's not helpful, they may get frustrated. That's a sign that they're feeling empathic distress. Or, you know, I experienced that a lot as well myself, where someone starts to talk about their problems, and then I start to think about my own problems, or I start to think about, well, if it were me, this is what I would do. And then it becomes more about me than it is about them and understanding them. And then I start to get into these negative feelings of feeling stressed, like, oh man, I got to do something. And then I start to get a little frustrated. Why don't you help yourself? Why don't you listen to what I have to say? Why are you causing this yourself? Why are you putting yourself in these situations that expose you to this kind of stress? And I start to become very frustrated, stressed, and that leads to me feeling burned out and disconnected. Compassion is actually the antidote to empathic distress. So compassion is actually when you are moving forward with positive feelings, with feelings of love, of feelings of well wishes, where when you're hearing someone talk about their pain, you're not just thinking, well, if it were me, I would do this, so you should try this, which is, again, centering it upon ourselves. Rather to say, I wish that things could be better for you. My hope is that your pain can ease. I'm wondering, what are the opportunities that I have to ease your pain? I'm here to listen to you. There may not be anything that I can do in the moment, but I want you to know that you are not alone. See how the shift is not about me, but it's about the person in front of me. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about giving. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about compassion. It's this salient difference between empathic distress and compassion, the difference between taking empathy so far that it becomes more about us than it is about the other person. That line is the line that's really important. So when you think about feeling burned out on helping others, think about being not attached to their outcome per se, but think about it as a first step, that wish. I don't know how to help to get you there, but I wish you the best. I wish you peace. I wish you health. I wish you that sense of belonging. And when you say that, and when you really are mindful about that, people can sense that. And your body can sense that. Your mesolimbic system activates, and you start to have more motivation. You start to have better wellness, the sense of accomplishment that, hey, you know what? I was able to help somebody. As small as it was, but it was helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's great, Dr. Tan. And in our chat, we have Nicole that's saying, laughter is so great for our well-being and our mental health. Marnie plays music now in the background. And so what I hear you saying is compassion fatigue is really empathy fatigue, and empathy is a foundation to compassion. So what are some other ways to prevent or heal from compassion fatigue?
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. First of all, let me just share some common symptoms of empathic fatigue or empathic distress. So that could manifest as just feeling emotionally or even physically exhausted. Your sleep could be disrupted, or it may be that you wake up in the morning and you feel still tired and exhausted emotionally in the morning. You might have more anxiety. It may manifest in some physical experiences of headaches, muscle tension, backache, neck ache, shoulder tension, stomach upset. And then it can manifest as well in irritability, in numbness, in a decreased sense of purpose because you feel perhaps useless. You might feel an emotional disconnection. People might blur. You might, as you're in a meeting, people might blur into a sea of faces, or if you're in Zoom, a sea of names. And then you may manifest problems in your personal relationships as well. So you might get a little bit more persnickety, a little bit more irritable with your partner, with your family members. Those are all signs that that the empathy distress may be getting to you. Now, what can we do about it? Well, actually, there are a number of things that we can do about that. So I'm going to share with you some things that psychiatrists and mental health providers know about. And we exercise these kinds of approaches in order to maintain compassion and to utilize compassion to overcome empathic distress. And then I'm also going to share with you some techniques that are cross-cultural that we share, that we've learned from other cultures that have been found to be useful, and there's a science behind that as well. So the first thing that I'd like to share with you is this idea of addressing your basic needs, okay? So this is really important. We want to make sure that before we focus on connecting with others as much as we can, we want to focus on making sure that we have enough sleep, that you're well hydrated, that you're eating, because those physiologic needs, if you're not meeting those needs, your irritability is going to go high. You're going to become hypoglycemic and feel like you can't listen to anybody. You're going to be distracted, and you're going to biologically, evolutionarily, you're going to be forced to think about yourself because you need to. It's our survival mechanism. It's a very strong drive. And so that's the first thing that I'd like to encourage you to do. And I'm going to show you a slide on that. So this is what I'm talking about. So this is called Maslow's hierarchy of need, okay? And Maslow, Abraham Maslow was a humanistic psychologist or a positive psychologist who really looked at what are the things that we need in order to be the best humans possible, living to our best potential as people, as humans. And so he characterized these basic needs. The need for food, water, warmth, rest is so important. And if you have these needs addressed, then it's easier for you to help with the other needs. The other important thing is security and safety, that we want to make sure that we address our own safety and security needs. And so what that means is, making sure that the good work that we do volunteering, we have safe distance so that we are keeping ourselves safe from infection, that we're not exposing ourselves to danger. And again, we talked about this last week. The CDC talks about this. There are some really tangible and effective ways for us to maintain safety as we are helping others. Healthcare providers are working on this as well. But making sure that we address those two things, that can help us to combat the very basic aspects, the root aspects of empathic distress. And then once we're able to address those basic needs, we can start to work on the needs that we have to belong, our needs to give, our needs to connect. Those things are much easier to do when we feel physiologically and nourished and physiologically safe. Now, it's not to say that when you're not feeling that way that you can't be selfless. There are many instances of people who have sacrificed their own physical well-being to help others. So I'm not saying that that is not possible, but what I'm saying is that it's much easier in the long run to be giving, to nurture a sense of community and belonging when you are taking care of yourself as well. The second point I'd like to make along this line is making sure that your expectations are realistic, okay? Yes, I came into medicine because I want to save the world. But on a day-to-day basis, when I have a patient that I'm working with, I'm not thinking about saving the world. I'm thinking about what can I do to help be of support to the person in front of me. That's a realistic goal. And so I want to illustrate another point. So there's this theory of burnout called control demand. And it kind of explains why sometimes when we have a lot to give, but no one asks us for any help, how we can actually burn out. And it can also explain why there are people who are working really hard, working in high demand situations, and they're thriving because they're fulfilling a need and they have this sense of meaning. So the idea is that we want to make sure that what is being demanded of us, and oftentimes it's our own internal, it's what we're thinking we ought to be doing, is within our sense, our ability to control. So again, if I'm with my patient or with a friend, and your goal is, I want to make sure that tomorrow everybody can go outside and be less than 6 feet apart because I want to defeat COVID, the pandemic right now and tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's not going to, that demand, that expectation is way beyond your control. And if we keep with that as our primary goal, we're going to burn out. But if my goal is today, I'm going to call my parents and make sure that they have the needs met, and I'm going to go over their house and I'm going to drop off some sprouts that I've been growing so that they can have some fresh food, and I'm going to keep my distance while I FaceTime them, telling them that I'm going to come over. That's within my control. I can feel good about that. I can feel a sense of accomplishment when I finish my bringing those sprouts to my parents. So you want to be in that sort of that green curve when your expectations are consistent and commensurate on the same level as what you have control over. Now, if the demand that you have or the demand that's being asked of you is well beyond your control, so in this case, the demand is a lot more and your ability to control it is a lot less. It's going in this direction. That's when we feel overwhelmed. That's when we feel like there's too much. That's when we start to burn out. But vice versa. When we feel like we have skills, I have things that I can do, I have things that I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know who needs me. I don't know how to utilize what I have to give, and I don't know how to connect that to people who need it. When your control, your ability to give, in this case, is a lot, but the demand, the expectation to give is a lot less, you start to feel disconnected. You start to feel bored. You start to feel apathetic. You start to feel flattened in some way. So the idea is to try to maintain this. And part of that means having realistic expectations.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. And we do want to be mindful too that we want to give the option for questions and answers at this time. Thank you so much for those slides, Dr. Tan, and we can get those slides from you so that we can send out to all of our attendees. We do have time for a few questions, but Dr. Tan, right now in the chat, we have a question that we'd like you to address. Practicing the self-care that you've put forth, but the news is consistently bombarding with worse and worse numbers through this COVID-19. Can you answer the question that's in the chat?
Yeah. So the question is, how do we manage our anxieties and our expectations when the news is constantly telling us that there's more, there's worse, there's more people infected, people are dying. Yeah. So part of that is limiting your exposure to the news. So there's two aspects of hearing news that I want you to keep in mind. One aspect is the informational aspect of it, okay? And quite frankly, the information is not going to change that much hour to hour for most of us, okay? And so keeping up with the news on an hour to hour basis is not going to really change how much you ought to know about this. The second aspect of hearing the news is the affective or the emotional aspect. And so hearing the news over and over again sensitizes you emotionally to the crisis. And so what that does is it overshoots the empathy part and brings you into empathic distress. When you have those feelings of, you know, oh my gosh, there's so many people suffering and you don't have anything that you can't do anything about it. Okay. Cognitively, we can manage that to some degree, but you want to make sure that affectively or emotionally, you're not exposing your limbic system, your brain, to more of those emotionally triggering reinforcements. Okay. So limit the news. That's the most important thing. The second thing is that part of why we feel helpless in these situations is that the numbers grow and we feel helpless because it's so abstract. It's so difficult to put our hands, our brains, to wrap our brains around what's developing. And so that uncertainty of how to wrap our brain around this information and around what's developing, that contributes to our sense of feeling overwhelmed, the sense of uncertainty, the sense that that the risks of this is really high and our resilience or our community's abilities to get through this being very, very low. And so part of that is to find ways to engage personally with this. That's why giving on a personal level can be so helpful, because it helps you to personalize this and helps communicate to your limbic system that yes, my cognitive, there are facts that saying that the pandemic is going to get worse before it gets better, but I'm also doing things that are helping. Now, if you look at from the standpoint of the larger picture, it is overwhelming, but you know there's a context to it as well, in that we will survive this. We will get through this. The majority of people will survive this, okay? And we'll recover from this. I've been thinking a lot about my own experience as a refugee and the sense that I got when the world, my world and the world of my family and my society crashed when we fled Vietnam during the war. And we really felt like there would be nothing left to live for. And yet now the Vietnamese community in the United States and in other countries have bounced back. It's a very resilient community. And it helps me to understand, taking it in context, that it is going to be painful. There's a lot of fear, and courage isn't about diminishing your fear. It's this recognition that there's something greater that is beyond the fear. And that something greater is our resilience, is that if we stick together, if we help out, the little things that we do can accumulate and make a big difference. 80% of people are going to get through this even if they're infected. Imagine the collective power if all 80% of the United States were to do their little part in physical distancing, in donating blood, and doing the little things that help people who are more vulnerable, both economically, socially, and physically. Think about the power of that.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. It's real. The fear is real. It's scary. As you saw in the chat, as Dr. Tan was talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those basic physiology, the explanation that people are afraid that they're hoarding supplies. They're hoarding what they believe they need, those basic needs. But we also have those basic needs of not being fearful, to be at peace. And to what I understand right now in this pandemic, that fear is feeding a lot of negativity, and we're getting it from all levels. So it's taking us out of our peace. It's taking us out of what I understand to be our mind and heart congruence. When we're out of congruency with both, we will feed the fear. So one aspect that we really want to be mindful of is mindful practices that Dr. Tan will be taking us through. We're going to send out a survey also. We want to be responsive to our attendees, and we want to hear from you on what more we could be providing for you at this time, or what topics you would like us to cover. Next week, Dr. Andres Shola from psychiatry will be talking about trauma and resilience. So I hope everybody can attend, but now we're going to close with our meditation from Dr. Tan.
Yes, so for this session, I'd like to lead us on a different kind of meditation. This kind of meditation helps us to shift from being empathically distressed to cultivating compassion. Because again, when you're in that state of mind where you're feeling compassion, feeling that love and positive sense about another person, that is actually incompatible with anxiety and empathy distress and so-called compassion fatigue. It's incompatible with it, okay? So if you practice this, not only will it help you to manage your own wellness, but it can also help you to be a source of compassion and giving for others, okay? And this comes about from this idea that we have the ability to be the conduit for compassion and for love and kindness. Compassion and kindness is not a limited supply where we have to keep some for ourselves and give some to others. That's a traditional model of compassion, whereas unlimited compassion, that model posits that if we allow ourselves to be filled with compassion for ourselves, that compassion then overflows into other people and it becomes contagious, okay? So that's the idea behind unlimited compassion, that when you cultivate compassion for yourself, within yourself, that in and of itself will help others. Okay, so I'd like for you to get into a comfortable position. Sink into your chair. Feel that spine run and connect directly to the chair. Feel your body connect to your feet and through to the floor. Take a couple of deep breaths, breathing in. Notice that moment of peace, and then breathing out, sinking deeper into your chair. Your feet sinking deeper into the ground. I want you to think about a person who you're close to, who loves you very much. Think about that person. It could be someone from the past. It could be in the present. Someone who's still in life, or someone who's passed. It could be a mentee. It could be a teacher, a guide. Imagine that person standing on your right side, sending you their love. The person is sending you wishes for safety, wishes for your well-being and happiness. Imagine them saying this to you, and say it to yourself through this person. May you feel at peace and well. May you feel at peace and well. They are wishing this for you. May you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Feel their love upon you. You remember what that's like when they looked upon you? And they say this to you. May you be free from emotional pain, from spiritual pain, from physical pain. May you be free from pain. May you be healed if you feel down, if you feel broken, if you feel tired. May you be healed. This is their wish for you. And may you, in whatever way that means, may you be a source of healing. May you be in that honored space of being able to heal another person in whatever way that means. They are wishing this upon you. May you feel at peace and well. May you live with ease and happiness. May you be in good health. May you be free from pain. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing. Now imagine yourself being surrounded by all sides by people who love you, by people who have loved you. Picture all your friends, your loved ones surrounding you, those in your past, those in your present, and they are standing with you. Imagine that. See them. They're wishing your happiness. They're wishing for your well-being and health. Feel the warmth of those wishes, the love coming from all sides. They are saying to you, may you feel at peace. May you be well. May you live with ease and happiness and have good health. May you be free from pain. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for others. Feel their love. Feel their warm wishes. You know what that's like. You've experienced it before. You're filled. And that feeling of being loved overflows you. Feel that warmth and love overflow you. You don't need to hold it all to yourself because it just naturally overflows. Now bring your awareness back to that person on the right side, the person that loves you, the person that wishes you well. Let's start to send that love that you feel back to that person. You and this person are connected. Just like you, this person wants to be happy. Send all your love and warm wishes that are flowing out from you to this person. And so say to this person, in your mind's voice, in your heart's voice, may you feel at peace and be well. May you live with ease, happiness, and good health. May you be free of emotional pain, spiritual pain, physical pain. May you be healed, and may you be the source of healing. Feel that love as you send it to them. And now imagine the group of people who love you. You are now a source of limitless compassion. Feel that love go to them. Direct the love within you to those people. And imagine saying to yourself, may you feel at peace. May you be well. May you live with ease and happiness and good health. May you be free from pain. May you be healed, and may you be a source of healing. And now, imagine the world. You can imagine this as a globe in space, as a community center, as a group of people that you perhaps cannot see individually, and send your love to them. This is free. This is within you. It's limitless. May you feel at peace and well. Say this in your mind's voice, in your heart's voice, to everyone. May you live in ease, with happiness and good health. May you be free from pain. May you be healed. May you be the source of healing. Take a couple of deep breaths. And let's circle back to our group. My parting word to you is that compassion is limitless. You can cultivate that and it'll overflow to others. You don't have to save compassion for yourself at the expense of saving for others. You don't have to save compassion for others at the expense of yourself. By filling yourself up with compassion as we did today, it feels good. And you'll be empowered to send that compassion and to have that sense to others. There are people who walk around, you know, our society, and maybe you've seen them, where they walk into a room and all they need to do is walk in and you feel a sense of relief, or you feel there's kindness. And for those people, a lot of it is that they feel self-compassionate as well, and it overflows. Thank you very much for spending our noon hour with each other. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That concludes our time. Thank you, Dr. Tan. Let's all go be well, and let's spread our compassion and keep vibrating compassion and kindness. Till next week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.